Let's check what's on the docket, as we do every week at this time, from Fox News legal analyst Lis Wiehl. Everything Ebola on the docket for this morning, Lis. I understand that the family of Mr. Thomas Duncan, the African who came over to the U.S. and set up in Dallas and died from Ebola, they're considering a lawsuit. So what's the potential claim here?
Yes, it's a medical malpractice. But as you know, in Texas, the medical malpractice bar is very, very high. In other words, you've got to show basically that the hospital workers knew he had Ebola and sent him along his merry way. And, of course, you're not be able to show that. They didn't know that at the time. But it's a willful and wanton negligence, way beyond just regular negligence. It's got to be gross negligence to actually win in a medical malpractice
Willful,
case.
wanton, how did you prove to find something like that?
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, how would you'd have to show that they knew that he was carrying around this, horrible infectious disease and sent him along his way because they didn't want to take him in because he didn't have insurance or, whatever reason that they had. I don't think you show that. I think what he presented with was 103-degree temperature, some nauseous, but that's consistent with sinus infection, which is what they diagnosed.
Wow.
They gave him antibiotics and Tylenol and said, come on back.
Yeah.
So, now we're all talking about it 24/7, but this happened. He was the first case in this country, so it's not, automatic that the
Not
workers,
necessarily on anyone's radar.
Exactly.
It is now.
It is absolutely now.
It is now.
That's all. You walk down the street here.
Well, let me present to you another scenario,
Yeah.
and this is based on from a conversation that we had with the vice president for National Nurses United, who gave us this scenario based on a national conference call that they had with some health experts. Here's the scenario.
Right.
Mr. Thomas Duncan, in his second visit to the ER, he's in the ER, and he is in the open. He's not isolated.
Right.
And he's there for several hours, by the way.
Yeah.
And there is a call from the nurses on the front lines to administration up there, up the chain of command. And up there, the higher-ups said, no, we're not going to isolate him. Is that an example of potential negligence or mismanagement or something that can be taken to court?
That certainly gets a lot closer. I mean, then he's now got in for a second time. I believe he was vomiting. Is that right? I mean, I think he was.
He was pretty sick that second time around. But I can't confirm that type of stuff. But
these reports are just flying around, so I don't really know that for sure either. But certainly by the second time he gets there, and with the time the higher ups are notified, and the Ebola, the E word,
because you got
used.
Frontline nurses, and this probably can be documented. The frontline nurses are expressing genuine concern of the situation they are dealing with on the floor, perhaps telling upper management, look, this gentleman came in from Africa. He's exhibiting signs, potential signs of Ebola.
Right.
We have to contain him. They asked for containment. It was denied by the higher-ups. That, to me, says that was the wrong decision, and I'm wondering if that hospital is open for not only getting sued by the family, but nurses who are now being exposed, who were exposed to this.
Exactly. Now at least two nurses, as we know, or two healthcare workers, we don't know if the second one is a nurse, has been exposed and has the symptoms of Ebola. So I think we do get a lot closer, but the standard, again, willful and wanton, that they really knew what was going on and they did nothing about it.
What if a nurse on the phone explains to a higher-up, excuse me, we have Ebola-type symptoms on the ground. We're convinced it is. We are asking for isolation now.
Yeah.
And then the upper guy said, no, we don't have the beds. We don't have the money for that.
That certainly gets a lot closer to willful and wanton, especially if it's, if it's just about money. I mean, because this guy, a lot of people are saying, look, they didn't take him because he didn't have insurance. They didn't want to take a guy who didn't have insurance.
Does the family have a claim
bottom
then?
line.
Based on that, does the family have a claim?
That's the case. I mean, that's what they're going to have to bring. But I'm just saying, in Texas, it's one of the hardest states in the country to bring a medical malpractice case. I mean, Texas law is very, very strict about it. You really have to, have been walking around with Ebola on his face and them saying, no, go away, go infect other people.
Yeah, and we are the land of tort reform, we're the tip of the spear for that down here as well. And if they win, well, I'm not exactly sure what they win. It's based on limits.
Well, then it's damages and everything. But again, limits. I'm not against tort reform, but in this case, it certainly makes it a lot harder for the family to bring. And also, people were saying, well, he lied on his immigration form. You know what? That is completely irrelevant to whether or not he received the standard of the right standard of care.
Is it though? I mean, seriously,
yeah, it is. No,
it is.
It is absolutely what he said on his. I mean, the only way it's not.
He knew he was sick. Well, let's say he knew he was sick. He came into the country sick,
right?
And now he exposes everybody. Isn't he responsible for that?
Well, he's certainly contributory negligent, absolutely. But that gets into damages. Then then at that point you've said, well, we've won. Hospital, we've won against the hospital, but now what are our damages? Well, they're less because he brought it in.
All right, Lis, thank you so much for your insight. Lis Wiehl from Fox News joining us on 710 KURV.